had cancer 3 times. So,
3 times. I
but
read
you
that
just, I don't know, with me, it's my personality that you just learn to just forge ahead. And so then I didn't teach anymore. I just did real estate full time. The interesting thing was my first year, I made more money than I did as a teacher.
Wow.
For me, the human connection is really the most important thing.
For sure.
And well, what I see a lot of is people are getting help from families because they wouldn't be able to make it without it.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
You just can't. I mean, even rentals though too. That's crazy.
Absolutely.
You just get through it. You like feel like a bullet that I just get through it, and because whatever's coming in the future is going to be better.
Welcome back to the Revamp Podcast. Super excited today. Have an awesome guest, awesome show for you. We have Gail Kardon. If you are new here, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It helps me continue bringing on awesome guests like this that are able to share insight, knowledge, and excited to get into it. Gail.
Excited too.
Wow. So what I know of you, we were connected through Jake Ostrich
Yes.
and his wife. And they said, you have an incredible story that I have to have you on here and share your story with the world, which jokingly, I'm not that big, but I do have people that follow, and I know we'll be able to get some insight and wisdom out of your journey.
Yes.
So,
my many years of journey in real estate.
I love it. I love it. So take us back to the start of your entry into the world of real estate.
Well, it was interesting because I was a teacher. I was a teacher for 9 years, special education. And then when our first one was born, we were living in the city at the time.
Okay.
And I thought, you know what, let's start looking for maybe houses. So we worked with agents, none of which listened to me. They didn't listen to when I said, I want this or this, and we can only afford this. So they never showed me prices in our houses in our price range. It was always more. So I thought, you know what? I can do this. So we lived not that far from Temple Center City. It was on Walnut Street. And I went and I took the classes and I got my real estate license. And I thought I would still teach probably, but I'll find us a house. Because at that time you could really be a part-time agent. Well, I started working and I started really loving it. And so then I didn't teach anymore. I just did real estate full time. The interesting thing was my first year, I made more money than I did as a teacher.
Wow.
I thought, this is incredible. And I loved it. And we were living in the city, and I knew a lot of people in the city who at that time had kids and wanted to move out to the suburbs. So I thought, let me focus on the suburbs because that's where we wanted to live.
Yep.
So that's how I really came into real estate. The fact that I really wanted to find us something. Now, it took us a while before I found us a house. I mean, it did.
A little learning curve,
It did, okay, because I kept waiting for the spring market, but it seemed like there was never, like in the areas that we wanted, there was never a ton of houses on the market.
Gotcha.
So, but after a year and a half, I found us a house, and that's how I started. And I just loved it. I loved being with people. I loved looking at houses. I just really enjoyed the business. So then I left teaching for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
So up until that point, because I love digging into that aspect because it's such a pivotal moment, like making that scary decision, like I'm going to leave. You said you were teaching for 9 years, right?
Yes.
That's a long time. Like that had to be a big decision, right?
It was a big decision because you have to realize you lose your pension, okay?
Right.
Because real estate, you're an independent
And your
contractor.
stability.
Right.
Yeah.
But at that time, financially, we were doing great. So I thought, you know what? Let me just take this chance here.
Gotcha.
And let me just go for it because I felt like here I can be sort of my own boss. And whereas in teaching, was getting more difficult that way because you really, especially in special education, that was really hard, where people were watching over you all the time. This way, I'm my own boss. I could make kind of my hours. where you turn out working many more hours and
Really?
weekends.
Does that happen? Does that happen?
And nights and weekends, but I could work my hours around my kids. I mean, that was the thing. I mean, because I started right when my oldest one was a year and a half.
Okay.
So, I mean, and then as he got older and we moved out when he was 3, I could make my schedule around his preschool time, around what if I needed to be home. So it was good in that sense.
I love
but
it.
I worked all weekends. I
Yep.
mean, it's a trade-off there.
It's a trade, for sure.
It's really a trade-off. But I loved it. But in those days, it was a little different. The agreement of sale was 4 pages, period, the end. Right now, I think the agreement is what?
13.
13
Yeah.
pages, right? Plus all these addendums that you have to with it. Those days you didn't have to have anything. You also made some deals with handshakes. I mean, you would say to somebody, my people really want the house. Shake, shake, they got the house.
I love that.
Now, right, forget that.
Yeah.
Everything is very different now. But I still love it.
Yeah.
And I still can't leave it. There's something, it's like in your blood.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
In your blood. But I've had a lot of obstacles along the way that, I mean, everybody's life is hard. I get that. Everybody has stresses. But I have had some tough experiences health-wise and so forth. So I've had cancer 3 times.
3 times. I read that right.
I don't know, with me, it's my personality that you just learn to just forge ahead, okay? Yes, maybe you have to go through chemo. Yes, maybe you have to go through radiation. But you just forge ahead and you just really try to have as positive an attitude as you can possibly have. And think about all the things that you have in life that are wonderful. I have an amazing family, amazing friends. I mean, my kids are incredible kids. Now I have amazing grandchildren. And I've just been so fortunate that to be with these people and get constant referrals from them, though, to my past clients. I kind of keep in touch with them the old-fashioned way. I make phone calls.
Phone calls.
Phone calls. The old days. I invite them to lunch.
I love it.
Or a dinner or something. So I get to see them, and it works for me. I mean, it's whatever works for you, but that really works for me. So I've also been fortunate in that when teams started coming into, at first it was everybody on their own.
Right.
There was no such thing as having a real estate team. But as things started changing, people would say to me, "Can I join you?" And that was great. So now I have a fabulous team. I also have my daughter-in-law on my team.
Okay.
Which at first she didn't really want to come because she thought where I was with a bunch of old ladies. So I advised her to go to Compass at that time because it was more techie and younger, and she did. And then my whole team moved over to Compass.
Really?
Yes, 4 years ago we moved over there.
Okay.
So, and it's been great.
Okay.
So
go back, because I never even thought about that. Like, at what time was it that teams kind of became a thing?
So not as long ago as you think. So, and the first where I was did not really encourage teams. Other companies did, agencies did encourage teams. Where I was did not encourage teams because at that time, and it's the same now, you get paid on the person who's the team leader on their scale. So they had to pay you more if you had teams.
Gotcha.
So they didn't really encourage it. But then, other people did, and I saw that really worked, and people asked me if they could be on my team, and it was great. I mean, it really was, because that way you can help each other out.
Absolutely.
Because you know how crazy your life gets with real estate. You have to be three places at the same time. And you say to yourself, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
How am I going to be 3 places?
Can't do everything.
Nope.
Yep.
But that's how it works. Now with teamwork, I mean, we help each other out there. We really do.
I love that.
Yep.
I love that.
Yep.
So going back to even like I kind of just want to hammer that point of like you deciding to leave your teaching job. Like, how many transactions had you done at that point when you decided, like, I'm leaving?
Right. So I decided to put more effort in it, and I probably did about 5 or 6 transactions that year. Okay. And interestingly enough, those were the days also. Oh my God, I'm really going to be dated here. But those were the days that we had something called floor time. Did you ever hear of floor time?
Not familiar.
Of course you didn't hear of floor time. So it was the days right before computers, actually.
Okay.
It was also the days where the multiple listings came out in books once a week.
Ah.
Okay. So people had to call the office. When they drove by a sign, they would call the office and say, I want to see that house. So you took to the phones. I mean, you were given certain times, and everybody fought for floor time. They wanted it because people really did call in and say, I want to see on the house at 123 Main Street. And you would meet them there.
Yeah.
And you would sell it to them. It
Doesn't
was
get
like,
any warmer than that. I love it.
Right.
Yeah.
But that was what floor time was.
Okay.
So those were so my first year, I sold 3 houses to people that I knew from my son's school in the city, and 2 houses floor time, just answering the phone saying, I will meet you there. And I sold those houses.
I love it.
So, but you got to know people so well, because the other people, you get to know their schedule. I mean, you become like a part of their family.
Absolutely. It's a big deal.
It is. And I love that. I love to get to know people. And you know what you do. You know what their kids' schedules are. You know when to call them, when to communicate with them. So I loved it. And it just, to me, I just loved going to an office. I loved being with other agents, being able to talk to other agents. And that's really, after that first year, when I saw what my taxes were my first year, because I made, believe it, I'm telling you, teachers are underpaid, okay? I will say that. I made so much more than as a teacher. I thought, and I loved it. I thought, what? Let's just go for it.
It's a no-brainer.
It was a no-brainer.
Yep.
But the business, it was very different then.
Oh yeah, and I definitely want to get into like some of the changes, and it's night and day, right? How much technology has kind of changed everything over the years.
And the other thing that I really think has changed everything, it was COVID.
Oh yeah.
Like for our business, because before COVID, we would go in the office. We would have Mondays, we would have meetings, office meetings. Then after that, we would go see the new listings that company had. Tuesday, we would go to brokers opens, the new listings, and we would see other agents there. But we were always in the office, and we would always get to talk to people and say, are you getting anything new? Are you getting a new listing here or whatever? But since COVID, and they built these huge real estate offices.
Oh yeah.
I mean, in those days, because they really used them with the conference rooms. And then COVID hit. Mm-hmm. And it was, I mean, first of all, we couldn't even show houses for a while because Pennsylvania, you weren't allowed to. But then once we did, you couldn't even go to settlements anymore. You would have to meet in the parking lots.
Yep.
And go into the office and sign the paper real fast. And it's crazy.
It was weird.
Weird. And the nicest thing used to be when you had settlement together. You had the buyers, the sellers, the agents. And to this day now, it's very different. People don't show up even at settlement. The buyers usually do.
Yep.
Because they have to sign the papers. But the sellers sign deed packages. It's a very different industry than it used to be.
Yeah.
So how long have you been in the business?
A decade now.
Okay, so very different.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, even from when I started, absolutely. Yeah, no question. And COVID, absolutely.
COVID changed, really did change everything. It's, I mean, we still have meetings, but there's very few people in the offices. And it's, that part is a shame. That part I miss because
I totally understand.
I miss that camaraderie. But now we're starting to come back with open houses, which I love because once again, you're going to get to see all the agents from different offices and stuff. And, you get to talk to them. So that's much better.
And I totally resonate with just the in-person, face-to-face. Like I've had a couple people that are like really incredible entrepreneurs around the country that are like, oh, I'd love to be on your podcast. Can we do it on Zoom? I'm like, no, absolutely not. That's not what I do. I only do in person because again, personally, I guess it's just me being selfish too. It's like, I like being in person with the person that I'm speaking with because I can feel there's an energy, and some of that, yes, I'll admit Zoom is a lot better than being on the phone. Like there's still an aspect that you're able to capture with the video, but there's still that element that's missing.
It is. There's nothing like a face-to-face. I mean, that's why I said I like to do business sometimes the old-fashioned way though too.
Yep.
So just a lot of face-to-face and meeting with people and really getting to know them. That's part of the business is really getting to know.
It's people.
Yeah, it is. It's all people. And people are always saying to me, well, I don't know that you'll be needed, in the future. That is
what, as far as like a profession, like agents?
Yes, agents being needed. Of course they will.
Yep.
Of course you need the people to the personal touch there.
Absolutely.
Really, yes, people can find houses, but you need to work with the people. You need to work with the other agents. You need to negotiate things. You really need to they're not going to be able to do it without you.
Absolutely.
They just can't do it without you.
100%.
And the other thing about being in real estate is you really change people's lives.
Absolutely.
I mean, you sell them a house, they create their family or whatever, their memories there, their life there. It's a wonderful thing. When I ask people sometimes for recommendations, they always write how you changed my life. I mean, you changed our lives. You changed the family. This is where our kids are growing up. These are the neighborhoods we love. So it's really important to me to feel like I help people there.
No question. I mean, for most people, that's the biggest transaction they do in their lives. And even putting the financial aspect of it aside, like you said, the family aspect and building a home together, like that's really important,
Right.
So taking a part in that is cool.
I know. And for me, at least, I grew up in the area my entire life, except for 1 year we had to move to Dayton, Ohio. That was very different. But but aside, my phone bill was greater than my rent at that time.
Really?
So yeah, it was not right. It was not right. But you make more friends in the neighborhoods and just in these are your neighborhoods. I mean, I love to support local businesses though too. I mean, I love that just to really create that sense of neighborhood. And as I've been there my entire life, I love it.
Yeah.
So, and I can't move too far. I like to go places, but I can't move
too
far.
You like to come back.
Right.
I get that.
And even it's so interesting that my son's friends, so many of them moved to New York or moved wherever, and they're all coming back. They want to be in the same. They've
experienced some other things, and
they want to come back. Yeah. Yep.
It's a great area. It really is.
We have it's a fabulous area.
Yep.
It really is. The whole area around here. I mean, just everything about it. Usually the schools are good. It's just full with good people. You're near, of course, certainly Philadelphia. You can go in no time, but also New York, Washington. You can Baltimore. You can experience all those things, which is
close
pretty
to
amazing.
so many things.
It's amazing, right?
I love it.
So
as you were kind of just getting started, right? Like, I'm sure that some of the just social skills and everything was probably innate to you, right? Like, that was just kind of in you anyway. But like, as far as training, like the brokerage that you were with at the time, like, did they offer a lot of training? What kind of helped you build your skills throughout that time?
So they did and they didn't. So it was a pretty large brokerage, but they never put a lot of pressure on you, but you would have meetings. But those meetings, they told you somewhat how to dress. I'm not kidding. Which is
those days are definitely over.
They don't tell you how to dress now. Right?
Nobody's going to touch that.
Right. Nobody. Right. They had meetings like that, how you should act, those kinds of things. But when it came time to write my first agreement, I had no clue.
Really?
None.
Wow.
So I went in the file and I pulled an agreement that somebody else had written, and I practically, except for the price and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But
it's a
as I said,
template,
it was only 4 pages, so it was easy enough to do. So I
Yep.
copied. And those days, even too, in the beginning, it was even before people, you could do a home inspection if you wanted to, but most people did not.
Right.
It was really at that time, buyer beware. Now, it's different now,
Yep.
you know?
Of course.
So, but yeah, they really did not give you the training. They just kind of just like threw
you in there and said, sink or
it.
swim.
That's exactly right.
Which is probably a lot of benefits. Of course, there's drawbacks with that as well. But for somebody that is self-motivated and everything, that's the best environment, right?
Yeah, it was. It really was. Except it was a little scary. that was a little bit. And people always said to me, I was really young at the time, they said, oh, people are not going to take you seriously. But they did. But they did. They did. And now the agents are so young that nobody would ever say to them that they're not going to take you seriously because you're young.
Yeah. So that statement, that's where that was kind of rooted from with people, is nobody's going to take you seriously because you're young.
Right. Right.
Interesting.
And selling houses. It's so different now.
Yeah.
But in those days, I was one of the youngest agents, though. It seemed like where I went, especially in that one agency, that everybody was older there and they had been doing it. They were established and they were.
That's great though too, because you have experienced people around you.
I learned from them. I really learned from them a lot. So
very cool.
It was great. That was really good. But I also did things like, you have to do things like I didn't know all the streets. I would go and take rides on the streets. Also, this was before GPS, so they liked me to do that. My second and third year there, they wanted me to do relocation.
What does that mean?
Which means, right, they don't do a lot of it now. They would bring a company in the area, and they were moving like a lot of people into the area. So you had to be trained in how to work with people just coming into the area. You had to give them tours of the area. So that was an interesting experience, because you had to show them as many houses as you could possibly show them, because if they had 2 or 3 days, and then they had to make a decision. So that was totally different, but it was before GPS.
Gotcha.
So I used to do it on, it's so crazy, like just on MapQuest, you know, do you remember MapQuest?
Oh yeah, I remember
right?
MapQuest.
So I would do it from one house to the next house, but then I would get in my car and drive it, so that, because you
to make
took
sure
the people in your car
in your
those
own
days,
car, right?
in your own car. So that was different. So a lot of things are different, but you know, you forget about it. In some ways, it's much easier today, but the expectations are so great because of technology. And for somebody who's been in it a while, it's a little harder. So I'm thrilled that my daughter-in-law is on the team, because she can show us do a lot of this stuff. And Compass is very techy, but I like that though too. But yeah, it's easier but harder these days.
I totally understand.
So right, and the other thing is, you're like married to these people, so many of them, especially when you did the relocation, because you had to give up for 2 or 3 days your whole life. That was it, to take these people around. But they bought.
Yeah.
They bought. So
like,
hey.
Yeah. You know, they have to buy something essentially.
Right. And then you have the people that, when I started, this woman I knew who was a teacher with me, said she wanted to buy a house, but she looked for 3.5 years. So I would take her out almost every Saturday. She would want to go out for a couple hours, and I think that I was her entertainment though
Really?
too.
Yeah, you became a friend.
I became
and it was
a
like,
friend.
yeah.
That's exactly. And then she would ask me to bring my son too. So I put him in the baby seat, and he would go and show a couple houses with me to her. So, but I really think, but she did buy. She did buy.
There you go.
3.5 years.
Wow, that's
that was
a
my
long
longest.
one. That
was
long
my
one.
longest. That was my longest one. Right. But it's really such a business, a people business, that if you like people, you have to really enjoy being with people.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so yes.
So as you were kind of going through this and kind of growing and scaling and doing more, like I'm sure that a lot, to your point of being referral business, came from that. Like, were you doing any other lead generation strategies even back then when you started?
So back then, what you had were so-called, you did farming. Did you ever hear of farming?
I did.
Okay. So that was mostly what you did. You took a neighborhood and you called it, that was your neighborhood, whether it be like 3, 5 streets, whatever. And you would send postcards to them or letters to them. And you would do it like every 6 months so that your name was constantly in front of them. Constantly. You would say things, oh, the spring market is coming. This is a great time to sell your house, blah, 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 whatever. So you had your letters or your postcards, and especially if you sold a house or if the house was listed in that neighborhood, you sent things out to those people. So for the most part, that was it. But you always had your sphere of influence. And to me, that was one of the most critical things, because I still use that now.
Oh, of course.
I have my sphere, who some of those people have referred me 4 and 5 times. So that's who I like to really treat well.
Oh, yeah.
And then they had this, do you remember the name Brian Buffini at all? Does that? Okay.
Doesn't ring a bell.
So there was the Buffini method that we had to take, that you had to do certain things. Like you did what they called pop buys. So like at Christmas or Valentine's Day or something, you would buy like something, like a tin of popcorn, but you would buy like 30 of them. You know how they had them for like in the stores for like whatever, $6 a piece, and you would buy 30 of them. And to 30 of your favorite clients, you would do a pop buy.
Okay.
You would visit them with a little note, happy holidays.
I love that.
Whatever. People love that. And you should go when they're home. Just don't leave it on. So we did those kinds of things. Always handwritten Christmas cards, holiday cards, always. But that was basically, now now you just set it up where there's a monthly newsletter that it goes out to all your people. It's crazy.
To your point, it's like, yeah, that's easier. But at the same time, you have to question like, well, is that human connection being lost though as well?
Correct. And it depends how you do business. For me, the human connection is really the most important thing.
For sure.
And I am still friendly with so many people. Now, there's always going to be the people that you want to try to have a connection with, and you write to them and you call them, and that they don't answer. What are you going to do?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly right.
And then you see their house listed with somebody else.
Does that still bother you when you see it today?
So it bothers me, but it happens to everybody.
Of course it does.
Everybody. Yep. So the best word I learned when that happens is next. Because there's going to be always a next one.
Yep.
I had somebody call me a couple weeks ago, one of the first houses I ever sold.
No way.
Yes. I didn't really keep a connection there. Once in a while, they would have a party and they would invite us. My husband and I, we would go. But other than that, I haven't seen them in years. And they're retirement age, and now they want to sell the house. But it's like, oh my God. So that's my next.
So they've lived in that same house.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's cool.
All those years. Yes.
Wow.
They were interesting because they were coming in, both of them doctors of Penn, and I would show them houses, and they would always say, bigger. I would show them a 5,000 square foot house. They would say bigger. It's like was mind-boggling.
Okay, we can sell you bigger. We can do that.
So they did. They bought a very large house because they would entertain a lot. That was their thing, which had a beautiful garden, so they would entertain a lot.
That's cool.
So yeah, but they called and it's like, this is great.
Yeah, obviously they fell in love with the house if they stay there that long and everything,
They did.
That's cool.
They did. But next is the most important word you have to say, because otherwise you're going to be bogged down.
Yeah.
Because it's always going to happen. You can't maintain every relationship. You just can't. You just try to do your best.
Yep.
That's all. And even when you're working with somebody, with all this stuff going on, there's so many agents out there and so many people who try to get these buyers. So
Oh, yeah.
you just have to do the best you can.
Yep.
That's all. So
And yeah, so that's kind of where I want to go anyway, into like the mental state for you, right? So you said 3-time cancer survivor.
Right.
When was the first time that you were diagnosed?
So the first time, my childhood, everything was really difficult in my life. We had nothing, okay? My parents worked 7 days a week. So my brother, sister, and then my father became ill with brain cancer at 35.
Oh, my
So
goodness.
my mother had to go and take over the business. But the three of us made sure that the house was clean, the laundry was done. We didn't do the food shopping. My mother did the food shopping, but we made meals. So, but we didn't realize that other people's lives were so different then. We just thought that's the way it is. But there wasn't a lot of joy growing up. We couldn't go on vacations. Maybe we went to Atlantic City and stayed in a rooming house for a couple days. That was like, but we didn't laugh. We didn't, except for my brother, sister, and I, the three of us had a bond there, but we just couldn't laugh.
How close in age were your siblings?
Oh, very close. The three of us, my brother's 16 months older than I am. My sister's 2 years younger than I am.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
we were close in age. They actually, my brother had it the most difficult. They would pull him in. They had a store in North Philadelphia where they sold to smaller corner stores. So his weekend was pulled into work in the store. He never got a break. At least my sister and I, there was the male-female thing there where but we also didn't play sports. School was very important. Education was very important. And your grades were very important. So not having fun. So it was like, that was but I was very lucky. I met my husband when I was very young. And he knew how to work, but he knew how to play too. So
How old is very young when you met him?
16.
You met him at 16. Okay.
I was still in high school. He
Okay.
was 19. He was a big college guy.
Okay.
But he was in Boston. So we saw other people for a while. But I got married when I was 20.
Okay.
They don't do that either, right? These days so much, yeah. But and then went straight on from my undergraduate to my master's, and that's when I started teaching. So, but things were easier then because he came from a very financially strong family. So it was like I could do that with going into real estate at the time because we were financially stable. If we weren't, I don't know that I would have been able to make that move. But shortly thereafter, we were not financially stable.
Yep.
So the business went away. So he had to start over. And I had to make sure that I really while he was starting over, I had to make sure that I could really make enough money to support our family and support your lifestyle and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to work even harder. But I was lucky, but I worked very hard. But the whole work ethic, and it's interesting, my brother, sister, and I all have it, that my mother and father had. I mean, unfortunately, he was ill, but was always, I tell my daughter-in-law, please don't be like me. I mean, like even now, we went to the Shore Memorial Day weekend, but I had a client come in and somebody else who wanted to look at a house. So Saturday, I get my car and I drive back to Philly and I show houses. And then Sunday, I drive back to the shore. I mean, you can give other people that responsibility too. Okay? But that's just my personality.
I understand.
That's not always great. So, but I loved the same thing as I didn't mind it so much.
Yeah.
I really didn't mind it because I wanted to make sure that they were taken care of. And they both bought houses that day. I mean, that's
Really?
crazy. Yes. Yes. So it was worth it.
Worth it. Worth
Right.
it.
Right. But it's a tough business, as you know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to
Yes.
the childhood years. How old were you when your father was diagnosed with brain cancer?
So if he was 35, 30. So I think I was in 5th grade,
Okay.
and my sister was in 3rd grade.
That's young to.
Yeah, it was really young. And then for a while, my grandmother came and helped out at the house to take care of things. But as we got older, I mean, he was sick. He was amazing. He passed away at 48, but he wanted to live. And he had at that time radiation, which I think was called cobalt or whatever, and chemo. He was so sick, but he wanted to live, and he lived 13 years with it, and then he couldn't live anymore. I mean, it was just that bad. So for those 13 years, that's when we had to take care of everything in the household
Right.
and do stuff because my mother had to support the family.
Yeah, which forced you to basically grow up at a really young age
Really
and
young,
face
right.
reality, which it sucks that any kids ever have to do that. But like, how do you think, looking back and reflecting on that now, how that kind of shaped you as a person?
Well, it's the good and the bad, okay? The good is I'm very responsible, okay? The bad is I wish we would have had a little bit more fun together. I mean, that's... I mean, I don't resent that. I mean, because they did the best that they could. They really, it was very difficult for them, and my mother for sure. And they certainly did, but it did teach us all we're all super responsible, like a little too responsible sometimes. So
Yep.
So that's how it shapes you. But that was perfect in terms of the real estate market and in terms of I knew I had to support the family.
Right. That's where your work ethic came from.
That's right. But the one thing I do regret that we had talked a little bit about before was I never bought properties because it was never the right time. I get crazy with money though too, maybe because we didn't have it as young. And I always felt it was never the right time, but I really missed some opportunities that were unbelievable. And when I hear these agents who have bought properties, I think it's wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you come across, sometimes I've been through these houses that were a wreck that I should have bought. Should have bought a couple of them. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
It would have made it easier, but it just, like I said, it just never seemed like the right time.
Yeah, that's a tough statement to look back and reflect on, that it was never the right time, because
it's
now
never the
you
right
know
time.
that, yeah,
It's never the right time.
Never
right.
is.
It never is the right
It doesn't
time.
exist.
Exactly right. Exactly. So, but that was one of the things that I really regret not doing. Like having those properties. Not that I would want to be a landlord necessarily.
Me either, but
I know.
But it is great
But
too,
it's
at the
all
same
part
time.
of it.
It is.
Okay, it's all part of the
It
thing
is.
there. So, but I have to say, despite everything that I've been through, I have amazing family and friends, and my doctors who I love, who have been great. That's the other thing. I feel so fortunate to be in the Philadelphia area, to have such great medical care here. So, and I have issues that I'm still faced with now, that I still go for scans and stuff, and I'm just going to work through it. That's all. My doctor said to me, my last visit with him, he said, for somebody who has so many things wrong with them, I'm doing great. So I'll take that. I will take that and just move on. And I just try to have a really positive feeling about life. And I think I passed that on to my kids, because that was one thing I didn't have as a kid. Everything was not positive, but I have wonderful kids and grandkids, and my husband is very positive. He wrote a book actually called The Habitude of Gratitude. So he started doing. He did his first triathlon when he was 60, but before then he loves to ride bikes. So he rode. He would do the Cancer Society from the Philly to the shore, 60 some miles. He would always do that. My son did it with him a couple times too. But now he still runs races, and he still has all these medals.
That's awesome.
But he wrote this book, and what he has, and everybody knows him, is on every shirt that he wears, it says Attitude of Gratitude. So he's like Mr. Gratitude. People know him from all over because he does a lot of races. So he has, and now he also is a parachaplain at a hospital that he goes to patients mostly who have oncology patients, and he talks to them, and he just does that as a volunteer. He
Really?
took classes, right? So he has an amazing attitude towards
Wow.
life. Yes, yeah. So it's like I'm surrounded.
Yeah, yeah. Which, I mean, how much do you think, like, just simply having a positive attitude around your health, like, makes an
Everything.
impact?
It's everything. You know what? I try not to focus on it. I really don't want to focus on it. Some people you meet and all they talk about is their doctor's visits and that. I really don't want to talk about that because I just want to talk about the good things about it. And I've been fortunate with, I mean, the chemo, I will tell you, is a rough one. That's was really tough. And every time you talk to somebody who's had chemo, you can see it in their eyes. But you really just you just get through it. You like feel like a bullet that I just get through it, and because whatever's coming in the future is going to be better.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's a great outlook.
right, and that's really and real estate too. When it's had its ups and downs and crashes and that, you just stick with it. It's going to be better. It will be better. So, and I feel very fortunate. So I've worked hard.
Oh, yeah.
But I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
very fortunate.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
So to your point of not liking talking about it, I apologize in advance, but let me just ask you a couple questions. Like,
Sure.
To the first time that you were diagnosed, like, what was it, if I might
So it was
ask?
breast cancer, and the first time was in 2004
Okay.
for that. So it's been over 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, which is unbelievable. And it was, thank God for mammograms. So I went for my mammogram, and you know, in those days they read it right there, and then you go back, you have your mammogram, you go back in this room with all these women sitting around waiting to hear the results, and they're all leaving, they're all calling their name and they're excusing them. And then I'm the one left there. And they said, we want to talk to you. And I thought, oh boy, this is not. And they saw something on the mammogram. So they did, later on they did a breast biopsy and then a lumpectomy for that. And then I had to have radiation. So that one was not terrible. It was breast cancer, but it was, I think, one, which is not that my next one was not good, and it was not in lymph nodes. Lymph nodes were clear.
Okay.
Luckily, believe it or not, so I had sold a house to an oncologist, like before that, probably about 15 years before that. And there's certain people that you really get along with, and his wife and I became really close. And as soon as I heard, because he was at that hospital where I had my mammogram, I called him. He called a surgeon immediately at that hospital. So I went to see the surgeon there. And like within the next week, I had my surgery.
Wow.
So yes. So he made everything. But it was because of real estate, believe it or not.
That's funny.
Right. I've met many of my doctors for real estate. So, but that was, then I went through radiation, which it was exhausting. You felt exhausted. It was an exhaustion that I've never felt. But I would go 7:30 in the morning to get my radiation. I found it was better to go earlier because later on the day, the people that were sicker were there. But if you went early, and then I went to the office afterwards. But the next go round was 2017, where again I went for my mammogram. And again, they were dismissing everybody, and I started getting really nervous. And then the person who read my mammogram came back to talk to me, and she told me that there's a lump, and it had nothing to do, my oncologist told me it had nothing to do with the first one. It's not like it came back. They were two separate ones. So that time, it was, then I had everything scheduled. I had all my doctors because I still had my surgeon and everything. So, but that time it was in my lymph nodes. So it was in 9 out of 11 lymph nodes, which is a lot. So they had to dig deep to get it clear. And once again, I had the lumpectomy, and then I had the chemo. And then after the chemo, I did the radiation. But as I said, the chemo was chemo, I could not get out of bed except to go for my chemo. I mean, they would like take me, but my friends would take me and they would sit with me all day. And at least or my husband, whatever, but I saw other people there that some of them did better, but apparently they put me on very, very strong chemo because I was in so many lymph nodes.
Right.
So, but once again, then I had the radiation and then right back to work.
Wow. Wow.
I was tired, but once the chemo was over, and then like within 6 weeks after that, it took a while. Now, the hardest thing was you do lose for that, I did lose my hair. So that was hard, but you get used to wearing a wig. And you know what? It wasn't so bad. Yeah.
Wow. So, man, there's so many aspects to that. And for me, like it's close to home. My father-in-law was recently diagnosed with prostate cancer. So he just got done all his chemo and radiation and everything.
How did he do?
He's okay. He's okay right now. And that's why I want to dig deeper into like your psyche at that time, like to the point that you just made about like kind of being positive and having a positive husband. And that's just kind of how you live your entire life and everything. Was it harder to just retain like a positive outlook on life and confidence that like everything was going to be okay?
Well, I'm very good at blocking things. So I kind of blocked a lot of the negative. I really tried, except that I wasn't feeling well, but I kind of blocked it. There's a lot of things that people do, and I've talked to people about it. I'm not the kind of person to join groups, or because there's all these groups that you can join and talk to people. I just wanted to talk to my family and friends about it. I didn't want to sit in groups and talk to other people about it. There are things that you can do that you do for yourself that I don't know if he would do it. One of my friends got me, this sounds crazy, but every week for like 6 weeks, she sent a reflexologist over, which is really interesting. It's your feet, and but they can feel where your pain is there. And I'm usually not into this at all, but she would play the music. It made me feel so much better.
Really?
Yes. And there's certain places in your feet where you can feel where your pain is. I don't know if he would be into that, or massages or anything like that. I also had a massage a couple times, which also helped.
Okay.
Because your body is achy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that would help him, something like that too. But I did not want to talk to everybody. I just wanted to talk to certain people about it. So,
I fully understand.
So, and try to remain positive, because that was the most important. And I don't want anybody to say to me, "Oh, Gail, I feel so sorry for you."
Right.
I didn't want that.
It's just not who you are. It's not how you're wired. Yeah.
No, but what my office did that was amazing, that really did help me, they did a meal train, which different nights they would send meals over, which was incredible, but I didn't have to answer the door because I didn't want to see people I didn't want to see.
Yep.
But they would leave it, they would text me and they would say, "I left it at your door." So that was a real help. But yeah, does your
I
dad...
love that they were that aware to,
they were wonderful.
Yeah.
They were really wonderful. They really, really were. And that was so helpful. Not for me, because I didn't care what I ate, really. But at least I knew my husband had a great dinner.
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't have to worry about that. So
absolutely.
But yeah, I know your father's pain. I know how, and sometimes it does help if he would join a group.
Yeah,
if he's that kind of person,
it might.
So right.
I just think about that all the time because you hear stories. I guess the most common thing that you hear is like a couple that are older, they're in their 80s, and one of them dies. And it's like the other one otherwise was healthy, but then a couple months later they go too, right? Because it's like when you lose your desire to be on this earth,
Well, then you have to. Does he have like hobbies? Is he working? Is he?
He retired after he
retired.
found out that that he had cancer and everything.
Needs a hobby.
Yeah. Yep. No, my wife is on him hard about that now.
He needs to volunteer.
Yeah.
At a food bank.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic for him. Just something.
Something. So I have a friend who volunteers every week. She goes and picks up food at the in South Philly. They have wherever a food place there with fruit, and she goes to Bryn Mawr. They have an elder in Bryn Mawr. They have this she puts out every week this food, and people come and get fresh fruits and vegetables. She loves it. Just any kind of volunteer stuff.
I love that.
Of anything that he's interested in, take a class.
Yeah. Something.
I mean, if you live near Villanova, I remember Villanova used to give, like, for seniors, free classes. And stuff.
Really?
Go take a class.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Join a gym.
Yeah. Yeah.
If he would join a gym. I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
I love that. It's
Yeah.
great advice. That's helpful.
Yeah.
So after that was the second time. And then through that, like, you continued selling real estate and everything?
Oh, yeah. I continue full, and every year winning awards and,
No
it was
shit.
really-
Even
yeah.
through that, you
Yeah.
were winning awards.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Even through that. I mean, some of the stuff my team took over from me, I've shared stuff with people because, it helps out.
Absolutely.
And I want to do a little less. But the thing was, once you have it, you're so watched by your doctors. So they're going to find everything wrong with you. And I'm grateful to that. So my GP sent me, and I do go to my appointments. You have to do that. He sent me to get a lung scan, and then they found stuff on my lungs. So now they're watching that. So, and then I was discovered this year to have lymphoma. So they're watching that. So I feel like I do get a lot of blows. Sometimes I say to myself, maybe I won't go to any doctor because every time I go, it's something that even my dentist.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So, but I feel, like I said, I'm so blessed that I feel like I'm so watched by people that you have to keep going and get things checked out and do things early. You really do. I mean, those mammograms saved my life.
Yeah.
I mean, they really did.
Yep.
So, and one time, after my first one, I had a friend who, her husband's a doctor, and I said to her, when was the last time you got a mammogram? She said to me, it's been a long time. I said, you need to go get one. You really, if it can happen to me, because you think it's never going to happen to you.
Right.
It can happen to me, it can happen to you. Well, guess what? She had double breast cancer. And she calls me her guardian angel because she's fine. She had the surgery. Thank God she went for her mammogram and she listened and she's fine.
Yeah.
So people just need to make sure that we're fortunate enough that we have
the ability to
do
stay
that.
on
We have
top
the
of it.
insurance or whatever to cover things that we can do that. Yes.
Yep. You're right, because I mean that's a very real element, especially for men. And I know this was the case with my father-in-law. Like exactly like you said, it's kind of easier to just not because I don't want to hear what the doctor is going to say.
And as you're getting older,
going to compound and just get worse.
Yes, and as you're getting older, it gets worse because they're always going to find something.
Yep.
So, but even young, you really have to take care of yourself. I
know.
mean, you want to live life to its fullest. There's so much other stuff, crazy stuff going on in this world, but there's still joy.
Oh yeah.
So, we still don't get bogged down by it. That's why I say focus on the positive stuff. Really focus on the positive.
Yep.
So
I love that. So let me ask you, as you were doing more in real estate, like what kept your flame alive? Like once you had, let's just use just financial aspect of everything. Like once you had enough money and your husband was doing well and everything, and it's like, I'm sure there had to be a point in your life where you're like, I don't really need to do this anymore.
right.
But you decided to continue doing it anyway.
It's in your blood. But the other thing is, you can make money in real estate, and I'm a little money crazy because we never had it as young when we were young. So I'm always paranoid that it's going to go away. So I would need to make sure that there's a certain amount that I even keep in my checking account, which is crazy. But That's
what works
my
for you.
craziness.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
That's my craziness.
As long as it's a productive crazy,
It's
not
all
a bad thing,
It's
right?
all right.
Yeah.
But I love to do extra things. Like for my kids, I love to just be able to give them some money to do stuff. I mean, they're all working hard and they're all doing fine, but it's still hard. They need a little extra money, to put in the college funds for the kids, or to help them buy a car, or to help them with a down payment in a house. I love that I have my own separate accounts. Or we went to Florida not the past year, but 2 years before that. We rented for a little bit. I mean, I love that I can take it from my account and do that, my real estate account.
Yeah.
It makes me personally feel better.
I totally understand.
But I still love it. So as hard as it's gotten, because there's been a lot of litigation that have changed a lot of rules that now you have to sign like immediately as you meet a buyer broker contract, which you never had to before. So all these things are changing. It's changing a lot. Basically, I just still love it.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. While thinking on the topic of your kids and everything, you made a comment earlier that you don't want your kids to, I forget exactly what you said. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I want them to have a life. I feel like you have to get a balance. I never had the balance, and I never will.
I hate that word because I am not balanced.
That's not good. That is not good.
All right, so let me ask you on that. So if you think it's not good, but you've probably known the way that you are as a human for a long time. You didn't just self-reflect on this recently.
No.
You've known. But you chose to continue an unbalanced life.
Right.
And so do I. Right. I still do.
Right.
So why do you think, thinking through this again, I'm kind of preaching to myself and questioning myself on this as well, like, if that's the way that you are and you've seen the life that it's created for you and your family and given you the ability to give your kids the life that they have and everything, why do you think it is not a good way to live?
Because you're always feeling inside. I have this nervous thing inside, though, too. And there's things I want to do and places I want to go. But you have to, and even when we did Florida, I was like crazy, calling in the hotel, online, working while we were there. But of course, I couldn't show houses, obviously. But you need to say to yourself, you have to be able to do something. You have to have somebody who's going to help you out, who you trust implicitly, okay, to be able to everybody's replaceable. Let's face it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? You're not the only one who can do it. You just have to allow people to do it for you. And that way you need to take a break if you can. All right? I'm taking them now. I'm taking little ones. All right? But it's harder to take for a longer time period. But I'm beginning to trust other people to do things for me. And you have to do the same for you.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you think you're the only one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm a control freak, though, too. Okay? I like to handle things my way, but you have to just give it up.
I totally understand.
It's really hard.
And was there something early on in your professional career that kind of eroded that level of trust that somebody else will be able to do something for you? Or was that just kind of within you?
I think that's just within me.
Okay.
But I would say to myself, after somebody I felt maybe messed up a little bit, you can't do that because they messed up. That's not true. Okay. It's always been in me. So you have to get rid of it. Okay.
Yep.
So, and if that other person makes a little bit of a mistake, so be it. It will still be okay. But you need to take vacations and you need to be good to yourself, though, too.
Yeah.
You really do.
Yeah, I had a mentor probably 5-6 years ago that I was the same way. And I'm still to this day, I'm a perfectionist. I like everything to be perfect that I touch. I want it to be incredible, everything that I do. And I had a mentor that kind of saw that. And, you know, he told me even back then that I had to start letting go of the reins on
Yes.
some things. And even then, like I had employees, but I still
It's
kind
not,
of like, you
yeah.
know,
It was
kept
all
a
you. It was
finger
all
on
you.
everything.
It was all
Yeah.
you. Are you doing it now?
I do. Yeah. I let go of a lot of things,
Oh,
and
good.
it's still like, it hurts me.
It's
like,
so hard.
because
It's so hard.
it's like, now I just know and have to accept that things that other people do, like they're probably not going to be the same way that I
That's
would have
right.
done it and everything. But
That's okay.
if we're moving in the direction that I want to move, and the reality is there's a lot of people that are way better at a lot of things that I really suck at, you know?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's the beauty of the
But
other
you
end of
need
the
that
spectrum.
balance. You really, really, you have to. I mean, I saw with my parents, they never had it. And they had such a tough life. I mean, but they couldn't. They really felt that that's what, I mean, to be open 7 days a week in that store. I mean, that Sunday was less. It was from 9 to I think 1 or 2. But by the time they got home, they didn't take a break. And before my father got really sick, they would go for a couple days away, but separate vacations because my mother, somebody had to be
had to
at
be
the
there.
store.
Yeah,
Right. Somebody
yeah.
had to be at the store. So it's not a way to live.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask you on that, like basically your philosophy, like what do you think really is that perfect balance and why?
I think I think that's why teams are great, honestly, especially for somebody like me who's a team leader, that you have team members that you can really trust and you really put your faith in. And you can have a balance if you have help. You just have to have people that you really feel good about there. And you do. You need to take a real vacation, okay? And you need to take some weekends off, okay? You just need it for your sanity. And that's why I say to my daughter-in-law who's on my team, I said, don't do what I did. Just, and believe me, I'm thrilled if they take off. And I think she's a little bit better at it than I am. So I think she'll let go. But she has other people to help support her.
I love it.
So, yeah.
I love it. So the team today, what is the team doing? I know you're doing some ridiculous numbers and
Every
volume.
team is different. Every team is really different. So it depends. What I like to do with my team, honestly, which is a little unusual, is, let's face it, I'm towards the end of my career. So I want to encourage my teammates to use their names, not mine. So like on their signs, they don't have to put the Gail Kardon team on there or Gail Kardon on there. Put your own name on there. It's right. It's really, you take the credit on their listings. They don't have to put me as a co-lister. It's their listing. I want them to create their name for themselves. And I'm also very generous when it comes to splits. So though too, it's not going to make a difference in my life really. And that's just how I want to be. I want to try to make it good for them. I really do. So that's what I'm really trying for them. And I think that builds up a more positive feeling for them to stay on the team. But it's going to change because slowly I am going to let go slowly.
I get it.
But yeah.
Do you have kind of like a target date
No.
or anything in mind?
No. So especially my daughter-in-law just had a baby in January, her second one. My
Congratulations.
fourth grandchild, yes. So she has Mason, and then she has the older one, Addie. So she's a worker though too. She really likes to work too. But she needs to spend. So I'll feel better when the kids are a little bit older, and maybe that way I'll loosen up at that point though too.
Gotcha. Totally understand.
Yeah.
So for right now though, are you continually recruiting to the team, or it's kind of only like referral people that you know that you want to come in?
Correct. We're not recruiting towards
Gotcha.
the team. Right. And it's, we do have team meetings. We do things like that. We meet with our, Compass has what they call an AEM who helps you with all their new programs. So we meet with her constantly. So we're trying to keep up to date with everything there. So the problem is everybody's lives are so busy. So you can call a meeting and out of 7 people, 3 people show up. So, but that's, it's real estate. So you're still an independent contractor.
That's right. That's
so that's the way it is. But I think we need some more youth on our team.
Okay.
That would be good. So we'll see what happens. We'll see. But right now, they're all a bunch of wonderful people.
Yeah. To the point of youth, is that just so there's more strength on the technology side of things? Or
it's helpful with technology. Also, they have a whole different pocket of buyers. I mean, like my daughter-in-law's in the city. She's got the young buyers there who will probably move. She has city buyers. She does also city and the main line because she grew up in the main line. So she'll do I'll do the city though too. I know the city like at the back of my hand though too. So we'll do that, and she does, it's amazing, a lot of rentals because those rentals turn into something else. A lot of people don't like to touch rentals because it's a lot of hard work.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
And half the time they don't show up when they're going to say they're going to show up. But she does a lot of rentals that have turned over in a year or two to become buyers. So that's really...
I don't want my tenants to turn into buyers, damn it.
Sorry. Listen, if the market keeps staying the way it is, they're going to stay tenants,
That's
right?
true.
Because it's hard. I mean,
That's true.
It's challenging these days.
So I won't ask you, where do you think the real estate market is headed overall? Because everybody hates that question, and you probably don't have a crystal ball either. But to that point, like of thinking of just rentals and the real estate market from that aspect and affordability, like
yes.
What is your perspective on the affordability? It doesn't matter whether we're talking about for rentals and tenants or, the prices of housing and interest rates and everything as a whole. But like, I don't think it's sustainable at where we're at right now.
I don't think so either.
What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are something's got to be done. I don't know exactly what, but either the interest rates have to come down, something has to happen.
People aren't making more money.
No, something has to happen. What I see a lot of is people are getting help from families because they wouldn't be able to make it without it.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
You just can't. I mean, even rentals though too, that's crazy.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely crazy. So I agree it's not sustainable at all, but we'll see what happens. But
yeah.
I think, although my son, I have one in Chicago, says to me, Mom, we're never going to buy a house. So he says, he's in a rental. He has 2 kids, but they're in a 3-bedroom rental that he loves his landlord. They've kept the rent the same for the last 5 years. He said, why should I move?
Yeah. Yep.
Why? He said, it's so expensive here. And I don't want to take care of the house. That's the other thing. They're so busy with their kids and their lives and all that. They don't have time.
Yep.
So,
for a lot of people, it makes a lot more sense. I was just talking to a guy at the gym yesterday, and he was asking me, what do you think I should do? You're a real estate guy.
Yeah.
I'm renting a house in Ridley Park. I'm paying $1,500 a month. It's a 5-bedroom, 2-bath house, single. I was like, yeah, man, you wouldn't be able to touch that. Like, just your payment alone, forget a down payment and all the other financial aspects. You're going to be $3,000 a month.
That's
like
exactly
double
right.
at least.
Exactly.
So
can't do it.
Can't
do it. Right. It's very hard. I really feel badly. Like I always said to my kids, thank God we're not buying a house. We wouldn't be able to afford the house that we bought 30 some years ago. We just couldn't. We couldn't touch it.
Yep.
So I mean, I don't know. It's really hard for these kids.
Oh yeah.
Really, really hard. And then a lot of these houses, at least where we are, need so much work.
Oh yeah.
And that's cash on hand that you have to have.
Too,
and the cost is ridiculous, right? That's exactly. So I don't know where we're going to be.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, they're still houses are still selling.
Because they always will.
Yep.
They always will.
Yep. Yeah.
So you kind of alluded to it earlier in the conversation, but that you are also of the train of thought that agents aren't going anywhere in the near future.
No, we need agents. We really need agents. I mean, can you imagine selling or buying without an agent, can you imagine what would happen?
So it's funny because I can think back to like when I first started flipping houses and everything. And whenever we flipped houses, still to this day, I don't hold a license. I wholesale hundreds of houses and everybody's like, how the hell do you do that? It's like, well, it's different, but whatever. But when I started flipping, like we would just always list our flips with a flat rate broker and I would kind of do everything myself.
Right.
So if you asked me 7, 8 years ago, because in my mind, I was like, this is really easy.
Yes.
But I didn't realize it was easy to me because I already had all the knowledge, skills, and connections that agents have.
You were
right?
unusual.
I was definitely unusual.
Yes.
And plus, the more I did that, the more I realized, like when I did my first couple, right? It's like, that was easy. And I saved whatever it was, $8,000, you know? But then as I started doing more volume and everything, it's like, no, there's actually a lot of stuff that I'm doing, even when I'm listing it. It's like the negotiations, the back and forth, the just fielding everything, right? There's a lot of shit that needs to be done.
A lot.
That it's funny because back then, if you ask me, it's like, oh yeah, agents are definitely going to be gone. Like as technology gets better, and that was long before AI.
Yes.
Now it's like AI even is in the equation. It's like, no, I don't know, like because I understand the human element to all of it and how much just hand holding needs to be done on both sides to get a deal done.
A lot. And you know what? Also, there's also a thing with agent to agent. You need to get along with those other agents. This is not a competition either. I mean, you really have to have a great relationship. And I know I'm fortunate. I try it with the younger agents though too. They're a little harder because you have to text everything, but it's really, you need to get along and your buyers and sellers need you. They need you.
Yep.
I mean, they'll say to you though too, I'm just going to sell it on my own because the market has been so crazy. But there's been a lot of bad experiences with that though.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
A lot of bad experiences. So I really think we're always going to be around.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Always.
I agree. And of course, things are going to change. Look at how much has changed in the
Oh my
last
God.
10
when
years
I even
alone.
said stuff to you today about floor time, something I haven't thought about that and
Never
I
even
can't
heard
tell
of it.
you.
Yeah.
And you never heard of it.
Yep.
And honestly, we used to have the books that had the multiple listings. You only got those once a week. You didn't know about the new houses coming up until
That's wild to even think about.
Is that wild?
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you this, as to like technological advances over the years and everything, what, if anything, was like the most beneficial thing that happened as far as technology that kind of helped you in your business?
Well, this is funny. I was thinking too the other day, we used to have agreements of sale signed by the person and we would go yes.
Let me
to
print
get
this out and take this to my client.
We had to do that. We had to have those signatures because you had to have it signed by all parties. If you had one initial missing or anything, deals fell apart over that too. So I remember at 10 o'clock at night running over to clients' houses, one time even midnight to get it signed, okay? So DocuSign.
DocuSign. Yeah, that's one of the things, holy crap, that totally take for granted. Wow.
We totally take that. But honestly, we had to have every signed, sealed, and delivered. That was the other thing. It had to be signed, sealed, and delivered.
Holy crap.
So yes. Yeah. So or everything could absolutely, you didn't have a deal.
Game changer.
So, right.
Wow.
Game changer, right. There's been a lot of technology stuff. And now with AI, I use AI for certain things in real estate that help me. It can write better descriptions of houses than I can write. But everything, I change it around though too.
Yeah.
You know, I don't use it. But I had sold a house, we have settlement in a couple weeks. And the outside of the house was very plain. It was a brick colonial with a little porch on it like that. He showed me a picture that he did from AI. He said he just fed the picture in. Out came, the bricks were whitewashed. The railings were black. The windows were like black. It was so cool. The house was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was. So
it's insane.
That's insane. Though, too. It's really insane. But I think just you have to use them the right way.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. You have to use tools the right way. but it can be extremely helpful to write descriptions though too,
Oh,
because
yeah.
you're like, where's the thesaurus?
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's something that I guess I don't know a whole lot about, but I guess the description really does matter.
the description matters. The thing
Yeah.
that matters the most are the pictures.
Okay. Okay.
That's what the pictures, the videos, those are the ones. That's the first thing when your clients look at a house and it's sent to them,
Yeah,
automatically.
nobody's reading a paragraph first.
Really.
The pictures
The
are sexy.
pictures.
Now I'll read.
That's right. The
Okay.
pictures you decide from the pictures if you're going to go see the house. I mean,
Right.
truly. So you have to have great photos
Yep.
of the house. I remember initially they would have, I think, one photo, the front of the house when I first started. You didn't have any other photos.
No way, really?
Yeah, it was just a picture at the front of the house. That's how we bought
Well, that
my
makes
house.
sense because they were just in a book printed out, right? You can't
Correct.
print out multiple photos.
That's correct. That's how we
Interesting.
bought my house. It was one picture. But I knew the street, so I saw that. I said, "We're buying that house tonight."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't even walk it first?
No, I saw it and then I went to see
okay,
it. Then
gotcha.
I went to see it. I walked it, and then of course there were multiple offers. Even at that time,
Gotcha.
there were multiple offers. So the sellers were there, so I sweet talked the sellers a little bit. They
Love
should
it.
never be there, right?
Yup.
But it all worked out. Yep.
That's funny. I thought you were as crazy as me and buy houses sight unseen because I do that all the time, and that
I've
doesn't
sold
always
houses
work
sight
out.
unseen.
Yeah.
And that always scares me a little
Yeah.
bit, But during COVID, what we would do, I'll never forget, I had a listing that came up and there was an out of town buyer too, but you couldn't show the house anyway. I had to, we got on a call, a FaceTime call.
Like a video call.
A video call, and my seller, because I wasn't allowed at the house either, walked through the house that the buyer saw everything, and then the buyer would say, "No, go back to the kitchen. I want to see," and we sold that house full price.
It's wild.
Like that.
It's wild to think about. To the point of photos, you'll appreciate this and get a kick out of it. I can't really quantify why it worked the way that it did. But when I first started wholesaling houses, right, like I was already flipping houses for years and everything. So when we would get a property under contract that we were going to sell to a flipper, landlord, whatever, when we would go in there, we would not just like take photos. Like I had a Matterport camera. We would go
Matterport,
through,
right.
we would do a 3D model. We would
Right.
have floor plans
Floor plans,
generated
right.
and everything. And it's like, we would basically put together for a while. We were even like getting contractor bids on like scope of work that needs to be done. So it's like, hey, you're a flipper. Here it is. Like everything's done. Right. And I did that because I loved it. That process made my life more efficient. Like if
Yes.
somebody brought a deal to me, I'm like, holy crap, like
Right.
a lot of the legwork's done. Came to find out, it's like, I think that the only way that I can quantify it is like I was giving people too much information, which
wow.
made them not like take action. And we had like one property that this was kind of the case study that made me realize it. We had somebody go out and like take photos for us, and they ended up being like cell phone photos, and they were terrible, like terrible shit photos.
Right. I've seen some terrible.
And it's like, they were all this direction instead of
I've
horizontal.
seen open
whatever.
toilets, things like that. Pictures of that. Right.
Way worse than that. Like terrible, terrible. And we sent out an email with this property and everything. And it's like, we got more responses on that than we had on
Oh my
anything else.
God.
So like, I literally started like split testing stuff after that.
Right.
Sometimes we would send out only one photo to your point and everything. And it's like, oh, wow, we get twice as
creative.
many because people are like, tell me more. But
Yeah.
that starts the conversation,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I noticed so many weird things that are just counterintuitive over the years.
Wow.
And
Right.
you kind of see things and you just start making little tweaks and tests and everything. And you
change
learn
You
things.
change things around. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But
I love it.
it is. It's a changing business though too right now. So
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So anything in the near future that you're excited for, that you're looking forward to?
I just think the direction of the business is harder. So I just think that, and the inventory isn't great. So I think that maybe the market will be changing a little bit, so that once there's more inventory there, I think that'll be better once the rates go down. It's also going to be better. So I've seen it go up and down so much, but this has stayed up. This has stayed up for quite a while. All right, the Feds were meeting today, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, it usually is a Wednesday,
I
right?
think today they were meeting, making a decision. I don't know. But I think at some point they eventually have to. Now, sometimes when the rates go down, you get more buyers on the market, but that's okay too. I mean, we just need more inventory, really. I mean, inventory has increased a little bit, but I just want it to be a more normal market. I really, and that's what I think we're headed towards, a more normal market. In terms of, I used to love to negotiate. I haven't negotiated in a couple of years.
Really?
Because the market was such that you didn't have the opportunity to negotiate. And also in terms of home inspections, all these people pulling their home inspections, that I really didn't love either. What we would do a lot of times is a walk and talk. Do you know what that is?
I don't.
So we would have an inspector come for an hour, even during an open house, when the house first went on the market, and they would walk them through it for an hour. It wasn't a 2.5 hour inspection, but at least they would have a sense of how old the heater is, what the roof looked like, and that. And based on that, they would put in an offer without a home inspection.
Got
they
it.
would waive that. But I think waiving everything is really, my heart drops but you have to. And then if the escalation clauses all that and you have to go so much over asking. I just want it to be a more normal market, and I think we will get to that eventually.
Yeah.
We will, and I look forward to that actually.
Yeah.
I mean, where you have more than 5 minutes to decide whether you want to buy the house or not. Now, the sellers may not like it as much,
Right.
but it's certainly more realistic.
Well, to the word you used earlier many times, balance. It's a more balanced
It is. That's what we need
marketplace,
it to be, more balanced.
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting more difficult though too. It's interesting with insurance companies. So I've had a harder time with insurance companies. Like they'll ask you how old the roof is.
Oh, yeah.
But if it's over 15 years, they're going to tell you need to put a new roof on. So that's another thing that's become more difficult in there. I had a situation where, and we used to put in for contingencies for insurance and flood insurance though too.
Right.
So, but you had to take everything out. But they need to find out about homeowners almost immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had one where it was a cedar shake roof, a very expensive roof, where the people had replaced half of it, but the other half was fine, but it was 20 years old. The insurance company said, no, you have to replace within 30, we'll get you to settlement, but within 30 days, you must replace that other cedar shake roof.
Or we're going to drop you.
That's exactly right. And I've heard, I'm on different Facebook pages of my neighborhood Facebook pages, and people write in that without knowledge, without calling them or anything, insurance companies show up, or they throw a drone over your roof, and they write you a letter that you're canceled.
Yep.
So I understand the insurance companies, they've had a lot of problems, and claim payouts that they've had to. But that's one more wrench for a realtor that you have to, a real estate agent that you really have to watch out for. You just have to be aware, so much more aware now. It used to be, piece of cake, homeowners insurance, no big deal. Not that way anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, just to that point, it's everything, I don't know. I've talked about this a couple times, but it's weird that doesn't even matter what industry we're talking about, right? But it's seemingly everything always just gets harder, even though you get better, right?
That's
it's you get better,
exactly right.
But still things get harder. And obviously it's because things are always changing.
Right.
But you would just imagine it's if I am one of the top performers in my field of what I do, at some point things should just become
easier.
But that never happens.
No. And they even change stuff for us, for our program, our platform, that to make it easier. To me, it takes me longer. I don't know what it is about it, but it takes me longer.
Yeah.
So, But I had today a situation with a mortgage company that haven't had this for a long time, and it was a conventional mortgage that they requested, they saw asbestos there, and the mortgage came in, it appraised fine, it appraised it a little higher than sale price, but the mortgage appraiser said that there's asbestos there, that they have to. The appraiser said that. Now, luckily, the seller had paperwork saying that when the new heater was put in, they took out the asbestos, but some of it they encapsulated. So that's what the appraiser saw, was the encapsulated. So I have things where that was fine, you could encapsulate, and then they tested the air quality. But since when does an appraiser mention certain things that need to be done? Mm-hmm. I was just surprised. I mean, we have that with VA loans where an appraiser does that, but I've never had that for a conventional loan.
Yeah, that's wild.
So that's what I'm saying. You're just everything that it's. So of course they need us.
Yep.
Because I don't know how. It's gonna be fine, but it's like one extra step that you need to take. And luckily the seller had all that paperwork. So.
And almost everything, all the time, that seemingly is put into place that's stupid, originated because somebody sued somebody.
Yes,
that's and it's like, oh, well, now there's all these additional steps, so we can cover our ass.
Right, that's exactly.
And to that point, imagine a buyer and seller entering into a transaction. Yeah, it's like
they always tell us.
Nightmare.
They always tell us, keep them apart, right? Keep them apart.
But imagine if there were no agents involved in the transaction whatsoever.
Everything,
it's like,
they would fall apart. Yeah. They would fall apart. So many times I just bite my tongue. That's all.
Yep.
There's some information you just don't need to share, like that people were nasty or whatever. You just don't need to create bad feelings. You just want everything to go as smoothly as possible.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Last question for you here. If you were able to go back, knowing what you know now, to early on in your career, like, that same time, 9 years into teaching and everything, what would you tell yourself to do differently, if anything?
I would tell myself to have a team immediately, even though they didn't, but have people work with me to build up the team. There also, I would have done a lot of things differently. So I would have had that. I would have also had different offices in different areas. I would have gotten my New Jersey license because to do it and have a team there. I would have got my Florida license, have a team there, thinking of places that people really want to buy, luxury homes, that I would have put stuff in place there. I would have done it so that I would be making, even retiring, that money would still be feeding back to me because they would still go off of me and they would still be part of I'd make it more like a business is what I would do, rather than the way I've done it, because the way I've always done it, but I would definitely have done it like a business.
Gotcha.
And I would have probably hired somebody to do all the paperwork and that for the agents to make things easier, things like that. But more like a real business.
That makes sense.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes.
So that's what you would tell yourself. Do you think that is sound advice that you would give to somebody just starting,
Just starting, I would say, do your team. Okay. Have and keep building your team with good people there, and have an assistant that's willing to help your team with those kinds of things, to take that pressure off of them. I really think that would be helpful.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's fantastic advice.
Yeah.
Just to the assistant point alone, I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday. You guys met Jess. I've had an assistant for the last 5 years.
And good, you're doing stuff to make stuff easier for you, but look how that's worked out, right?
And again, I'm thankful to mentors that I've had that have pushed that on me, because it's scary at first. I have to hire somebody. I got a salary. I got,
personalities. I mean, you never know with personalities. So really important.
But you do know that you can't do everything yourself.
You can't. That's what I've learned after 30-some years.
No. It's a hard pill to swallow, right?
It really is. It really is. So,
I love that.
Yeah.
Gail, you have an awesome story.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Having you and having you share everything with us. I really appreciate it.
You're so easy to talk to, Drew. I will tell you that.
Thank you.
It's a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
A
Anything
pleasure.
else you want to plug here? Website, social media?
Oh, okay. Well, we have a great social media person. So follow the Gail Kardon team, okay, at the Gail Kardon team, and on Instagram. Yeah, make sure you follow
Perfect.
it. Okay. What? Is it just Gail Kardon team? Yes, it's just Gail Kardon team.
We'll get it right in the show notes.
Okay,
I got
please.
you.
Right. Okay. Right. I always
Got
get
it.
that. I always right. Just remember when you're down, just think of something good because you always have good things around you. And if something happens in the business that upsets you, you just say the magic word next.
Next. I love it. Gail, thanks so much for coming on.
Great.
Appreciate you.
Okay, great.